They will test you. They will push, prod, and pry, searching for cracks in your armor. The moment they find one, they will keep coming until you have nothing left to defend. If you want to never be bothered again, you must stop being easy to reach. If you want to stop being controlled, you must stop being predictable. The weak hide behind kindness, believing it will shield them. The powerful hide behind distance because distance works. In this world, boundaries aren't given. They are enforced with steel and silence. Machiavelli said, "It's better to be feared than loved if you can't be both." But here's the truth. No one will admit it when no one can read you. They can't touch you. If you're ready to forge a mind so untouchable it feels inhuman, then listen carefully. My silence is my fortress. This is the first rule of the cold mind, and tonight you will learn the rest. Number 1. The removal of access. Most people give away too much of themselves, time, attention, emotions, like it costs them nothing. That is weakness disguised as generosity. Every moment you are available to anyone, you're teaching them that your life belongs to them. A Machiavellian mind operates differently. It limits access like a rare commodity. You become a locked vault, and not everyone gets a key. When someone tries to pull you into their drama, you don't respond. You vanish. When they demand answers, you give none. The less you give, the more control you keep. You will feel the urge to explain yourself, to soften the blow of your absence. Kill that urge. Power grows in silence, not in explanations. When you control who can reach you, you control who can hurt you. Number 2, the power of emotional frost. Emotions are the levers people pull to move you. Anger, guilt, pity. They are not just feelings. They are weapons. And in the wrong hands, they become chains wrapped around your mind. Every reaction you give is proof that they can reach you. Every flash of anger, every drop of guilt, every moment of pity tells them exactly where to press next time. That's why the cold mind doesn't just control its emotions. It turns them into a private language no one else can read. When someone tries to provoke you, understand what they're doing. They're not just trying to make you upset. They're fishing for evidence that they matter in your head. If you bite, if you snap, if you explain, you've handed them the keys to your mental kingdom. That's not power. That's surrender. So you give them nothing. No verbal retaliation, no change in your breathing, no twitch in your face. Keep your tone level, your eyes steady, your pace unbroken. It's not that you feel nothing. It's that you choose what leaves your fortress. This is not weakness and it's not apathy. This is calculated resistance. It's the refusal to let anyone dictate your state. Here's the paradox. When you do this long enough, people start to fear the silence more than the outburst. They'll fear the calm because calm means you're thinking. Calm means you're watching. Calm means you're deciding what happens next. And it's always on your terms. In the Machiavellian sense, this is a weapon more powerful than aggression. Aggression burns out. Emotional frost lasts indefinitely. And when others can't predict your emotional weather, they start walking on ice around you, afraid to make the wrong move. That's where real leverage comes from. Uncertainty in their minds, certainty in yours. You will feel the urge to fight back verbally. You will feel the urge to justify yourself. That urge is the enemy. Kill it. Every time you resist the pull to react, you sharpen the blade of your mental power. And the longer you keep that blade sheathed, the more dangerous you become, because they never see the strike coming. You must practice this in small battles before it works in the big ones. Start by withholding your reaction in trivial moments, delays, insults, slights. Make your stillness an iron habit. By the time you face a serious confrontation, your frost will be second nature, unshakable, untouchable. Number 3. The disappearance tactic. Power often isn't taken in a clash. It's taken in your absence. The most dangerous move you can make is not to attack. It's to remove yourself entirely. When you vanish from the places they expect you, you disrupt their rhythm. And in human interaction, rhythm is control. People are creatures of habit, addicted to predictability. Your availability, your responses, your presence, they all become part of a pattern they rely on. That pattern is their map of how to reach you, how to read you, how to control you. Erase yourself from that map, and you throw them into disorientation. This is the first truth about disappearance. It is not weakness. It is not retreat. It is calculated starvation. You are starving them of influence, starving them of information, starving them of the certainty that makes them comfortable. When they can't find you, they can't touch you. When they can't predict you, they can't plan against you. The less they see you, the more they start to wonder what you're doing. And that wondering turns into questioning. Questioning turns into insecurity, and insecurity turns into fear. This is the psychology of absence. When people can't see your next move, they begin inventing one in their heads. And their imagination will always make you more dangerous than reality could. Machiavelli understood this in the political sphere. When a ruler is rarely seen, his presence carries greater weight. The same principle applies in personal power. Mystery is leverage. Scarcity creates value. If you are always there, you become ordinary. If you disappear, you become rare. But here's the key. You don't announce your disappearance. You don't post a dramatic farewell or declare you're taking a break. That's performance. Performance invites negotiation. True disappearance is quiet. It's surgical. You simply reduce your presence until it feels like you've evaporated. Conversations unanswered. Invitations declined without explanation. Appearances skipped without warning. The silence is the message. And during that silence, you do not sit idle. You sharpen yourself. You work in the shadows. You make moves no one can trace. The point isn't to hide in fear. It's to prepare in secret. By the time you return, you are not the same person they last saw. You're sharper, stronger, colder. Number 4, the currency of indifference. Attention is the most valuable currency in human interaction. The moment someone knows you crave theirs, you've already paid them with your power. Indifference is the opposite. It's when you don't need their approval, their validation, or even their acknowledgement to feel complete. And here's the truth. The person who needs the least always controls the one who needs the most. When someone tries to bait you with insults, you give them nothing. When they flaunt something to provoke envy, you give them nothing. When they withhold to make you chase, you give them nothing. This is not passive resistance. It's active denial of their power. Your lack of response forces them into a vacuum where their tactics collapse. Indifference is not about pretending you don't care. It's about truly not needing what they offer. You have to build your mind and your life so solidly that no single person becomes a necessity. That's why most people fail. They try to appear cold while secretly dying for attention. But the trained mind feels no withdrawal because it draws power from within, not from the shifting winds of others. Machiavelli understood this in politics. When a ruler shows that he can function without certain allies, those allies scramble to stay relevant. In personal life, the same law applies. If you want someone to stop thinking they own a piece of you, show them you can exist in total strength without them. Do it so well that they begin to wonder if you even noticed their absence. Your goal is not to be cruel. It's to be unbuyable. When you stop being purchasable with compliments, attention, or validation, you become the rarest thing in the modern world, a person who cannot be controlled. Comment this right now. I am my own source. Write it and mean it. Because when you master indifference, you master leverage. And when you master leverage, no one bothers you twice. Number 5, the art of psychological deterrence. The strongest defense is not a wall. It's not a weapon. It's not even action. The strongest defense is the threat of consequence without ever having to reveal exactly what that consequence is. When people believe that approaching you, disrespecting you, or attempting to manipulate you could cost them something – status, comfort, peace – they approach with hesitation. That hesitation is your victory before the first move is even made. This is psychological deterrence, and it is the invisible armor of the Machiavellian mind. The average person has no armor. They're desperate to be liked, desperate to be understood, desperate to be accepted. They make themselves too safe, too open, too easy. And the problem with being too easy to approach is that you invite all kinds of people to step into your space. People who have no respect for your boundaries, no intention to bring value, only the hunger to take. A cold mind works differently. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't beg for validation. And it certainly doesn't open its doors to everyone. Instead, it creates a presence, a certain aura that makes others pause before getting too close. And that pause is everything. In that pause, they're asking themselves, is this worth the risk? What happens if I overstep? Will I regret trying? That doubt is the seed you want to plant in everyone you deal with. Once it's there, it grows on its own. They start treading lightly. They become more careful with their words. They measure their tone around you, and that's without you ever having to directly warn them. Your reputation becomes your first line of defense. Not because you brag about what you can do, not because you threaten people, but because you operate in a way that makes others feel the possibility of consequence. They don't know what you might do. They just know it won't be in their favor. That is far more effective than any open display of aggression. Here's the paradox. The moment you loudly try to intimidate someone, you invite them to test you. It becomes a contest of pride. But when your deterrence is subtle, silent, and unspoken, there's nothing for them to challenge, only something to respect. Loud intimidation is cheap. Quiet deterrence is priceless. Machiavelli understood this principle well. He wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But more importantly, he understood that the threat of losing your favor often outweighs the fear of direct retaliation. So how do you build this quiet deterrence? By controlling three things with precision: your words, your expressions, and your silences. Your words are measured. Never too many, never too few. You don't spill your life story to strangers, and you don't explain your every action. You speak with intention, and only when necessary. This tells people your voice has value. Your expressions are restrained. No one should be able to read your entire emotional state from your face. If someone insults you, your gaze stays steady. If someone tries to provoke you, your posture doesn't shift. If you're amused, you allow a faint smile, but never the full grin that gives away your hand. Your silences are weaponized. A pause before answering a question makes people wonder what you're thinking. A refusal to respond to certain provocations makes people question whether they've crossed a line. Silence is uncomfortable for most, but for you, it becomes a space of control. The key is not to fake this presence, it's to live it. You can't pretend to be unshakable. You must become unshakable. That comes from doing the inner work, detaching from unnecessary attachments, building a life that isn't dependent on others' approval, and training yourself to respond based on principle, not impulse. When you've cultivated this presence long enough, you'll notice a shift. People approach you with more respect. They think twice before asking for your time. Disrespect becomes rare. Trouble stops coming your way. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've altered the cost-benefit calculation in the minds of others. And most decide that testing you simply isn't worth the potential loss. And that is the essence of psychological deterrence. People stop trying to bother you, not because you fight them off, but because they decide on their own that the risk is too high. You've won before the battle could even begin. Comment this right now. My presence is my shield. Write it. Remember it. Because when your presence itself becomes a deterrent, you don't need to fight. The fight never comes to you. And that is the highest form of defense. One born not of force, but of perception. Number 6. Weaponizing scarcity. In a world drowning in noise, the rarest thing is absence. Not just physical absence, but mental and emotional scarcity. The less you give, the more valuable you become. The more available you are, the more ordinary you appear. Scarcity transforms your presence from something forgettable into something unforgettable. When you control your access, your presence stops being routine. It becomes an event. And events are respected, not exploited. Most people are addicts to availability. They throw themselves into every interaction like their worth depends on being seen. They show up to every event, answer every call, reply to every message. They're afraid to let a conversation end without their input, terrified to miss a moment in someone else's life. They believe constant presence builds connection. It doesn't. It builds complacency. People stop valuing what's always in front of them. They stop working to keep what they know will never leave. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that when a ruler is constantly visible to the people, familiarity begins to erode authority. Mystique disappears. Respect weakens. But the ruler who is rarely seen, who appears only at decisive moments, commands attention the instant they step into view. The same law applies to personal power. When your presence is selective, every appearance carries weight. Scarcity is not accidental. It's engineered. And it has 3 main forms: physical, digital, and emotional. First, physical scarcity. You limit your physical availability. You do not attend every meeting, every gathering, or every argument you're invited into. You don't get pulled into every urgent problem someone else throws at you. You move on your schedule, not theirs. You show up when it matters, when your presence will make the maximum impact, not when it's convenient for others. And when you leave cleanly. No lingering, no overstaying. The more they see you on your terms, the more they remember you as a decisive presence. Second, digital scarcity. Most people are slaves to their devices. Notifications dictate their attention. They respond instantly, and in doing so, they train others to expect that same instant access forever. Break that cycle. Do not respond immediately unless it's strategically beneficial. Create deliberate space between their demand and your reply. That space forces them to value your attention and question if they still have it. It makes them consider the possibility that your time is not theirs to command, and that realization shifts the power dynamic in your favor. Third, emotional scarcity. Not everyone deserves to know what you think, what you feel, or what you plan. Your inner world is not public property. Guard it like the vault it is. The moment you make your emotions universally accessible, you lose leverage. The moment you allow everyone to know your desires and fears, you give them the blueprint to manipulate you. Keep certain thoughts for yourself. Let them wander. Mystery is not only about where you are, but about what's going on inside your mind. Now, understand this clearly. Scarcity is not about arrogance. It's about discipline. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about knowing that your presence, your time, your attention are finite resources. And like all finite resources, they become valuable when rationed. You don't spend your presence like loose change. You invest it like gold, only where it will grow, only where it will command return. Here's the transformation that happens when you commit to weaponizing scarcity. The people who only valued you for convenience will begin to drift away. They were never truly loyal. They were simply accustomed to access. Let them go. Scarcity is a filter. It strips away the opportunists, the users, the time wasters. What's left is a smaller circle, but a stronger one. Those who remain will treat your time and attention like the rare currency it is. You'll notice the quality of your interactions change. Conversations will become sharper, more intentional. People will prepare before they speak to you. They'll weigh their words. They'll value the seconds they get because they know they may not get them again soon. Scarcity forces people to treat you with the respect they should have given you from the start. The beauty of scarcity is in its paradox. The harder you are to reach, the more people want to reach you. The less you show up, the more they anticipate your arrival. This isn't a game of playing hard to get. It's a reprogramming of the social dynamic. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the one who holds back becomes magnetic. People chase what they can't easily have. And once you understand that, you stop chasing entirely. You must also be strategic about your reappearances. When you do show up, make it count. Bring value, deliver impact, leave an impression that lingers long after you've gone. This amplifies the effect of your scarcity. People won't just remember that you were there. They'll remember that when you were there, things happened. Words were spoken that mattered. Moves were made that changed something. And one more thing, scarcity doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means you move like a storm, not always in the sky, but always possible. People respect storms because they know they can appear without warning, change everything, and disappear again just as quickly. Be that storm. Comment this right now. My presence is a privilege. Say it until it becomes instinct, because once you truly understand it, you'll never waste your presence again, and no one will ever treat it as cheap. When you master scarcity, you master both defense and attraction. You become untouchable to those who want to use you, and irresistible to those who want to earn you. That is the Machiavellian balance. Being beyond reach and yet impossible to ignore. Number 7. Controlled unpredictability. Power is not only in being strong, it's in being unreadable. Predictability is a weakness most people never notice in themselves. They live in patterns so obvious that anyone who watches them long enough can map their every move. That's how enemies, personal or professional, learn where to strike. They know when you're vulnerable because you've trained them to expect it. That's how they know when to act. But controlled unpredictability destroys that map. It makes your actions difficult to forecast, your reactions impossible to script, and when people can't predict you, they can't plan against you. They approach you cautiously, calculating, never sure which version of you they'll face. That hesitation gives you the upper hand before the conversation even begins. Here's the Machiavellian truth. A mind that can be anticipated is a mind that can be manipulated. Your predictability is the enemy's blueprint. Destroy the blueprint, and you destroy their strategy. Controlled unpredictability doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean acting without reason or flipping your behavior at random. That's amateur. True unpredictability is calculated. You make deliberate choices to shift patterns to keep people guessing, but you always know why you're doing it. You're not unpredictable because you've lost control. You're unpredictable because you have control. You do this in 3 key domains: your movements, your responses, and your decisions. First, movements. Don't always be in the same places at the same times. If you have a routine, it should be one that others think they know, but every so often you disrupt it without warning. One week you're always available at a certain hour. The next, you vanish at that time and reappear later. Never let people mark your exact patterns of availability. In the political world, this is how leaders prevent assassination. In the psychological world, this is how you prevent manipulation. Second, responses. People try to read you by testing your emotional buttons. Maybe they know a certain insult gets you to bite. Maybe they know a certain flattery gets you to open up. Controlled unpredictability means sometimes you respond, sometimes you don't. Never in the same way twice. One day you let an insult slide, the next you cut it down cold. One day you give praise in return for flattery, the next you ignore it completely. They stop knowing which lever to pull, and soon they stop pulling levers entirely. Third, decisions. Don't be the person whose choices are always obvious. If everyone can guess what you'll agree to or refuse, you're an open book. Occasionally take a path that's unexpected, but still serves your larger strategy. This throws people off balance without throwing you off course. It forces them to second-guess their read on you, which drains their confidence and slows their moves. Now here's why unpredictability is so powerful. It creates a sense of potential danger without you lifting a finger. People fear what they don't understand, and they respect what they fear. You become a figure they approach with caution because they know they can't fully read you. And in that caution, they give you more space, more respect, more deference than they would otherwise. Machiavelli himself advised rulers to appear one way while secretly holding another plan entirely. If people think they have you figured out, they will prepare for that version of you. When you show them something different, something they didn't plan for, you take the ground out from under them. This isn't just defense. It's offense disguised as unpredictability. But be careful. This tactic works only when used with precision. If you're unpredictable in ways that break trust with the few you do value, you destroy alliances. The art here is selective unpredictability. You keep the opposition guessing, but you remain reliable to those inside your inner circle. A king who surprises his enemies is feared. A king who surprises his allies is overthrown. Controlled unpredictability also has another weapon hidden inside it: psychological fatigue. When someone can't read you, they have to spend extra mental energy watching you, tracking you, trying to figure you out. Over time, that constant effort wears them down. They become less aggressive toward you simply because you are exhausting to analyze. You win without direct confrontation because you drain their energy just by existing outside their expectations. And here's where you truly become untouchable. You combine unpredictability with the scarcity we discussed earlier. If people can't see you often, and they can't predict you when they do, you become a phantom presence in their lives. They know you're out there. They know you can appear, but they have no idea when, how, or why. That uncertainty is power distilled into its purest form. Think of a predator in the wild. The prey doesn't fear it because it's always in sight. They fear it because it might be anywhere. That's what you become. You're not an opponent to engage. You're a force to be accounted for at all times. The greatest part? Once you've built this image, you don't have to work as hard to maintain it. The memory of your unpredictability lingers in people's minds. They'll keep calculating, keep adjusting their behavior around you, even when you're not actively doing anything different. You've reprogrammed how they interact with you without their consent. This is why controlled unpredictability is such a high-level tactic. It's not about proving your strength in constant battles. It's about making the battlefield itself unstable in your favor. When no one knows where to stand, they move carefully. And when they move carefully, you can move freely. Comment this right now. I move on my own terms. Because when you decide the terms, you decide the outcome. And when you're both scarce and unpredictable, no one can pin you down long enough to even try to control you. That's when you stop being just a player in the game and become the game itself. Number 8. Psychological anchoring. Every interaction you have with someone leaves a mark. It doesn't matter if it's a 5-minute conversation or a single glance in passing. There is always residue. Most people wander through their days letting those marks be accidental, shaped entirely by emotion, impulse, or the other person's influence. They walk into conversations without a plan, react however they feel in the moment, and walk away never thinking about what imprint they left behind. That's a mistake, and it's a mistake that costs them power. A Machiavellian mind never surrenders control of the final impression. The ending is everything. What people remember when you're gone is often more powerful than anything you did when you were there. This is where psychological anchoring comes into play. The art of deliberately deciding the emotional tone people will forever attach to you. People rarely remember the exact words you speak. Their memory of the details will fade quickly. What doesn't fade is how you made them feel. That emotional echo stays long after the moment ends. If you don't decide what that echo will be, then someone else or the chaos of the moment will decide it for you. And once an impression is cemented in someone's mind, it shapes every future interaction you'll ever have with them. Here's how you take control of that process. Step 1. Enter with intent. Before you walk into a room, pick up the phone, or send that message, decide the exact impression you want to leave behind. This is not about being fake. It's about strategic self-presentation. Maybe you want to project authority, calm dominance, calculated warmth, unshakable distance, or even subtle intimidation. The right choice depends on your long-term strategy with that person or group. Are you planting a seed of respect? Are you creating a sense of mystery? Are you building trust while still holding your ground? Whatever the objective, you decide it before the first word is spoken. Step 2. Shape the interaction. Every element of your communication has to align with your chosen impression. If your goal is unshakable, calm, your tone must be steady, your breathing slow, your pacing deliberate. If your aim is authority, speak with certainty and avoid filler words. If you want to create subtle intimidation, hold eye contact slightly longer than comfortable, then break it on your own terms. If you want to create allure, speak less, ask more questions, and let them talk into the silence you leave behind. Your delivery is the sculptor's tool. The impression is the statue you're building in their mind. Step 3. Control the exit. This is the part most people ignore, and it's where your true power lies. Most conversations fade out naturally, ending with generic goodbyes, awkward pauses, or someone else deciding it's over. This is amateur behavior. You do not let the interaction die on someone else's schedule. You end it on your terms. And the final note you end on must reinforce the impression you chose at the start. That might mean leaving after delivering a single decisive sentence that makes them think for hours. It might mean exiting with a faint knowing smile that suggests you know more than you've revealed. It could be a pause before leaving that makes them realize they were the ones being evaluated, not you. You leave them thinking, and that thinking continues long after you've walked away. Why is the exit so important? Because people tend to remember the peak of an experience and its ending. This is called the peak end rule in psychology. If you control the ending, you control the memory. And if you control the memory, you control the story they tell themselves about you. That story is the anchor point for every future interaction. Step 4. Repeat, refine, reinforce. Anchoring is not a one-time trick. It's a cumulative process. Each interaction should drop another layer of the same core impression until it becomes undeniable. If you've decided your anchor is calm dominance, then every meeting, every call, every message must drip with that quality until it becomes the only way they can perceive you. You're not leaving your reputation to chance. You're engineering it like an architect building a fortress. The beauty of anchoring is that it begins to work automatically over time. Once you've conditioned someone to associate you with a specific feeling, they will start to expect it before they even see you. If you've anchored yourself as someone whose presence demands respect, they will adjust their tone before the first word leaves your mouth. If you've anchored caution, they will tread lightly from the moment you enter the room. If you've anchored awe, they will enter seeking your approval before you've even spoken. This is the true Machiavellian advantage. You're not just reacting to the present moment, you're shaping the future by engineering how others perceive you. Every time you interact, you're planting a seed that will grow into behavior favorable to you. The silent weapon, selective disruption. Once you've anchored an impression, you can amplify it by occasionally breaking it strategically. Imagine you've anchored yourself as calm and collected in all situations. One day, in a moment of deliberate choice, you display a flash of cold, sharp intensity, not uncontrolled rage, but calculated power. That moment will hit harder because it's so out of character for the image they've come to expect. You've shown them another dimension of your control, that even your rare flashes of force are intentional. The defensive benefit. Anchoring also shields you from attempts to smear or undermine you. If you've spent years anchoring yourself as disciplined and strategic, no sudden rumor of recklessness will hold weight. It contradicts the version of you that people have already accepted as truth. Your consistency in anchoring becomes a shield against misinformation. This is why anchoring must be deliberate and sustained. It becomes not just your weapon, but your armor. And here's the part most people will never tell you. Anchoring is one of the few forms of power that works in silence. You don't have to confront people directly to shape their perception. You don't have to argue, defend, or prove yourself. You let your actions and presence speak for you. Over time, the anchor becomes so deeply set that even your absence continues to influence the room. When you walk away, the image remains. When you're silent, your presence is still felt. When you've left the conversation, you're still in their mind. That is the ultimate level of influence, when you no longer have to be physically present to control the tone of the interaction. Comment this right now. I choose my impression. Say it until it becomes instinct, because once you choose the impression, you control the memory. And when you control the memory, you control the behavior that memory produces. That is psychological anchoring. That is the unseen hand on the wheel of human interaction. And when you master it, you stop reacting to the world, and the world starts reacting to you. Number 9, the untouchable mind. Everything you've heard, distance, silence, scarcity, unpredictability, anchoring, wasn't just a list of tactics. It was a blueprint for something few will ever build. The mind no one can touch, the presence no one can own, the will no one can bend. This is the end game. This is where all the rules converge. The weak let everyone in. They hand over their time, their attention, their emotions like it costs them nothing. They leave their gates open and then cry out when their peace is invaded, their energy drained, their spirit hollowed. But you, if you've followed this path, you've done something different. You've built walls, not to hide behind, but to define the limits of access. Not to lock yourself away, but to make it clear entry is earned, never assumed. You've turned your silence into a blade so sharp that it cuts without being drawn. You've made your absence a signal that says more than presence ever could. You've taken scarcity and made it a currency. You've woven unpredictability into your movements so no one can map your patterns. You've anchored yourself in the minds of others so deeply that they cannot think of you without feeling exactly what you've chosen for them to feel. Understand what that means. You have taken control of the game at the level most people don't even realize exists. They still think power is about shouting the loudest, being everywhere, winning public battles. They have no idea that the real victories are invisible, the ones won before the other side even knows there's a fight. People will notice you've changed. They'll feel it before they can name it. They'll speak differently around you, measured, careful. They'll hesitate before asking for something they used to demand without thought. Their old tricks, guilt, urgency, flattery, provocation, will slide off you without leaving a mark. That's when they'll understand. They don't have the same access anymore. The cost of reaching you just went up, and not everyone can afford it. This is the state Machiavelli understood without needing to write it as a single rule. The balance point between fear, respect, and fascination. Too much fear, and people unite against you. Too much love, and they begin to take liberties. The cold mind holds the middle, balancing both forces without being consumed by either. You are now a storm on the horizon, never constant, but always possible. They don't know when you'll appear, but they know you could. They don't know what you'll do, but they know it will matter. Your unpredictability is not chaos. It is calculated risk for them, calculated control for you. This uncertainty is your shield. It keeps the reckless away. It is also your spear. It pierces their confidence before they've even spoken. From here, every move you make must reinforce this untouchable frame. Every interaction is an opportunity to remind them, without saying a word, that your time is scarce, your focus is selective, and your reactions are deliberate. You've stripped away the noise, cut out the opportunists, silenced the weak demands. You've surrounded yourself only with those who understand that being in your space is a privilege. And here's the truth. Once you reach this point, you don't have to enforce the rules as often. The rules begin to enforce themselves. People who would have wasted your time in the past will stop approaching. They've calculated the risk and decided it's not worth it. People who might have tried to manipulate you will pull back because they know you don't play by their script. You have redefined the terms of engagement. And now, whether they admit it or not, everyone is playing by your rules. But this is also the danger. Comfort. Once you become untouchable, it's tempting to relax, to think the work is done. That's when erosion begins. The untouchable mind must be maintained like a weapon. Every day you're tempted to overshare, withhold, or react. Every time you want to chase, stay still and let them come to you. This discipline is what keeps the blade sharp. There will be moments when the old world tries to pull you back. People will test your boundaries, try to provoke you, try to break through the walls you've built. Some will come with open hostility, others with sweet words. Neither should move you. You do not bend. You do not explain. You do not hand over control of your state to anyone, for any reason. The real victory isn't in winning arguments or dominating interactions. It's in never having to fight them in the first place. The untouchable mind wins without battle because it makes battle impossible. It denies the enemy the conditions they need to engage. That is the highest form of power. And if you hold this line, if you keep the silence sharp, the absence meaningful, the scarcity deliberate, the unpredictability precise, and the anchor unshakable, something remarkable happens. The world begins to reshape itself around you. People adapt to you instead of you adapting to them. Your energy is no longer pulled in 1,000 directions. Your focus becomes a weapon you can aim where it matters most. Comment this right now. I am untouchable. Not as a hope, not as a wish, but as a statement of fact, a declaration of the reality you have built. If you've listened this far, it means you're ready not just to hear these truths, but to live them. That means no halfway measures. No slipping back into old patterns when it's convenient. You either live untouchable or you don't. You either control your frame or the world controls it for you. So, here's the final move. Commit. Commit to maintaining this state, no matter the noise outside. Commit to valuing your presence so highly that others have no choice but to value it too. Commit to walking away from anything and anyone who demands more than they've earned. That is not cruelty. It is the discipline of someone who understands that their life, their mind, and their peace are not for public consumption. And if you want to keep this edge, if you want to keep sharpening it, then lock this in right now. Like this video so it spreads to those who need to hear it. Subscribe so you never miss the next weapon I put in your hands. Turn on notifications so you are always ready for the next move. Because in the game of power, missing one lesson can cost you everything. This is Sig Rhythm, and now you are untouchable.